Here, let's go ahead and get started. Well, welcome. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good week so far. It's Tuesday, April 14th at 10 o'clock. We're going to start our small business event series, webinar series. So today, we're glad that you guys are with us. We're going to hear from Knam here in just a little bit. But before we get started, I wanted to, of course, thank our sponsors. Eric, could you go back one slide for me? So we can't do what we do without our sponsors. Our small business champion sponsors are GTR Media Group, IBT, Southwestern Payroll, Tulsa Tech, Drillers, and Lamar Advertising. There they are. And then next, our small business partners and advocates, Arrow Exterminators, Hightower Business Solutions, and ABB Bank. Thanks again to our sponsors. And again, today we're going to be hearing from Eric Knam. So he's going to be talking a little bit about his 11 steps to help your business survive and thrive during an economic crisis. Eric Knam owns Action Coach. It was created to help businesses succeed by showing them how to get more time, build better teams within their companies, and increase their bottom line. So obviously right now with everything going on, there's a lot of uncertainty. Eric's just basically going to help teach our business owners and our employees and employers how to navigate this, get through it, and come out successful. And without further ado, here's Eric Knam.
All right, thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. And I'd like to thank everybody for taking a little bit of your morning today to invest some time learning a little bit about some steps that business owners can be taking to set their businesses up, hopefully to, if nothing else, at least survive through what we're going through right now and potentially thrive. And definitely the goal is by the end of all this to be in a position where you can take your business to that next level. So we're going to take about the next 30 to 45 minutes or so and just talk about 11 things that business owners should be doing to set themselves up for that, because it's really, really important, even in times that aren't a crisis, that you have a plan. And it's much, much more important to have a plan when you're dealing with something like we are right now. So as Jason said, we got 11 steps that we'll be talking about here. The first step that you really need to be thinking about is communication. What's your communication plan? And obviously we need to be positive, right? There's so much negative going on out there in the world right now. We got to make sure that we are conveying a positive message, that we have passion and enthusiasm, because those things are, well, they're contagious, right? In a good way. So you need to be focused on your long-term goals and thinking about where you want your business to be, right? You should already have a vision. You should already have goals about where that business is headed. And that's really what's already gotten you to where you are right now. But right now, you may need to make a little bit of a pivot, right? So you need to be looking at what are the course corrections that we might need to make right now in order to get through these choppy waters so that we can get back to headed toward our destination. Through this whole process, our communication should really become stronger. And the reason I say that is because we don't have the chance to sit down with each other face to face and shake hands and drink a cup of coffee like we used to, right? So we're getting better at being able to communicate, whether it's through email, through Zoom calls, over the phone. So really, this is a great opportunity to work on your craft as a communicator. As I said earlier, really the goal here is to survive and then hopefully even thrive, depending on the business that you're in right now. So who do you need to be thinking about as far as your communication plan? Who do you need to make sure that you're reaching out to regularly? Well, you definitely want to make sure if you have employees that you're touching base with them on a daily basis, right? They need to be led, because right now there's an awful lot of things vying for their attention. So you need to be out there in front of them, and you need to give them something to stay focused on, right? You help them understand what it is that they're working toward. If you're in a business that sells things, that needs to purchase things from suppliers, you definitely want to be on the phone with them on a pretty consistent basis. Number one, let them know that you're still open, right? Because if you're still open and you're still buying things, then you're pretty valuable to them at this time. But you also need to make sure that they have the things that you need. And do they foresee there being any challenges in getting it down the road? Do they have any concerns about transportation issues? And it might even be worth reaching out to a couple of other suppliers to see if they have the resources that you need, and have them in your back pocket in case something falls through with the folks you're using right now. If you rent and you haven't reached out to your landlord, I would highly encourage you to do so and talk to them about what options you have. I'm hearing stories of rent abatement. I know some people are having their rent cut a little bit during this time, and some landlords are even saying, you know what, I won't charge you for the next 2 or 3 months. We'll just take that and we'll put it on the back end of the lease and you can pay me then. So if you're looking to try to adjust your costs here a little bit and you haven't talked to your landlord, might be a good thing to do. I mean, what's the worst thing that they can say? Right? No. And then you need to make sure that you're reaching out to your community. What are you doing to help the situation right now? And what are you doing to make sure that you're keeping your employees and your customers safe? Step number 2 is really all about the business model, because let's face it, chances are most of us need to change. So we've got a client who owns a cycling studio, and obviously they can't have any of their customers come in and do their workouts now. So they've started renting the bikes to their customers and then doing virtual workouts. So it's a really great way for them to keep their customers engaged, provide a service, and still actually keep some revenue coming in the doors, right? It doesn't have to be permanent, but who knows? That may actually end up being an additional revenue stream for them when the restrictions are lifted. So you need to be thinking about what changes can you make right now for your business to help it survive and thrive. Now you see some kind of interesting formula here on your screen, and if you're not familiar with Action Coach, then it makes no sense to you at all. But this is our formula for change. So I'll break it down for you here and then give you a little bit of an example. So D times V plus F has got to be greater than R. So what does that mean? D stands for dissatisfaction. How dissatisfied is the person with the current situation? V is the vision. So what is the vision that they can see, the better vision, the better future? F is first steps. What are the first steps that have to be taken in order to achieve that vision? And then greater than R. So R is resistance, or you could also say fear as well. So an example I would use here is, how many of us, if I'd come to all of you in January and said, you know what, I think we need to take all of our networking meetings, I think you need to take all chamber meetings, and you need to do them via Zoom. We don't need to meet live anymore. Back in January, most of us probably would have said, no, that's not a good idea. There would have been a lot of resistance to that, right? But now that we're in a situation where we can't get together, that resistance has dropped and the dissatisfaction has gone up because of the fact that we still want to be able to get together, communicate our jobs, and accomplish things. So dissatisfaction has gone up, resistance has gone down. We see the vision of still being able to get together and have these meetings. And then the first steps are pretty simple in this instance, right? You just reach out to Zoom, you get an account, you do some training on some videos, and then what do you know? Next thing you know, you're hosting meetings from your kitchen in your bathrobe. So that is the formula for change through Action Coach. Something else you need to think about is when you're making this change, it doesn't have to be one massive change. Small pivots will add up. It's just like, you think back to when you were younger and you got your first checking account, and you go through and you balance your checkbook and you didn't spend any more than $10 or $15, and you couldn't understand how all the money was gone at the end, right? Because you didn't spend that much money. Well, it was all those small little increments that made a difference. Well, they can make a difference in a positive way as well. So those small little pivots can make a huge, huge change. So think about where your business needs to change. Where do you need to pivot? Is it sales? Is it marketing? Is there maybe a product or a service or adding delivery that can help you make that pivot? Because each one of those little pivots that you make can really add up. It seems a little insensitive to say this in this time, but there are opportunities out there. You just have to figure out what they are. So I was on a coaching call yesterday with somebody who's in the promotional space. They do t-shirts and banners and things like that. And really their business right now has dried up. So they have switched to, I actually have mine right here because I bought one from them. They switched to making masks, right? There's a great opportunity now for them to make masks, fill a need, and still be able to make enough money to make sure that they're able to keep their lights on. Now, are they going to become rich off of this? Absolutely not. Are they going to be able to stay in business through this because of the masks? Absolutely. Are the masks going to be the future for their company? No, because the demand is going to go back down, obviously, at some point. You can also look at, and I don't know if this actually counts as irony or not, but Corona Brewery has actually stopped making beer, and they are now producing hand sanitizer, right? So it's another little pivot there for them. There's a need for hand sanitizer. They're able to change it and put that out. I think it was Richard Branson who made this analogy, and it was about, if your house burned to the ground and you got the opportunity to rebuild it, would you rebuild it the exact same way that it's built now? And chances are that you probably wouldn't have, right? There are probably a number of changes, maybe some small ones, maybe some big ones, that you would make when you rebuild your house. Well, think about the same thing for your business right now. And unfortunately, some people are in a situation where their business is the equivalent of the whole house being burned down. But it's a great opportunity to rebuild it, right? In some other instances, it may just be a kitchen fire, or that it was the garage that caught fire. But again, where are those tweaks and changes that you can make to make your business better when the economy picks back up? Someone out there is thriving right now, and you can point to any industry. You look at the restaurant industry, and I know there are a lot of restaurants out there struggling, but McDonald's is having one of the best years that they've ever had so far to date. So what is it that they're doing differently? What can you steal from the competition out there? What can you steal even better from other industries out there that are thriving and put into your business to make a difference over the next 60 to 90 days? And then as you're making these changes, you need to think about a couple of things here. You need to think about leverage, and you need to think about scalability. So our definitions of those words are, for leverage, do the work once, get paid forever. So you think about a book that somebody wrote. The author sat down, they took the time to write that book one time, but then they get paid on it forever. So that's our definition of leverage. Scalability, on the other hand, is that the next sale costs you less and is easier. So let's say you own a meat market and you start a meat of the month club, and you charge people $75 a month for their meat of the month club, and it gets food for 4 people, eat for 4 people once a month. That makes your sale easier, and it costs less going forward because you know exactly how much you need to buy. You already got the person on automatic payment, so you're billing their credit card every month. So that's an example of what scalability would look like. Step number 3 that we need to focus on is the fact that virtual is the new normal. So you really can run your business now from anywhere in the world. And in many cases, you can probably run it for less money, depending on what you do. I was talking to my coach the other day, and he's got 6 or 7 employees. He is running everything virtually right now, and realizing that with a couple of tweaks to his systems, he might be able to do this in the future. And that is really going to save him a lot of money on rent, on equipment, on things along those lines. So it really can be a huge opportunity. And as we get more comfortable with Zoom and these other meeting formats, I think you're going to see more and more companies pushing for us to do these things on a more consistent basis. So you need to embrace technology. You need to say yes to it. You need to think about, what changes do you need to make? I think we've all probably been on a Zoom call or two where somebody's internet was not as strong as it needed to be, and they froze up, or you missed half of what they were saying. So do you need to upgrade your internet? Do you need to put in a VPN because you've got employees working from home? What software do you need to add that maybe you don't have? And do you need to buy additional computers for your folks so that they can stay in quarantine for the long haul? We need to think about human management right now as well, because we've got the social distancing. People are feeling alone, right? With people being in quarantine, the emotions that they're feeling right now in many cases are panic and fear. Fear tends to be really massive. Just watch the news. And you throw in loneliness on top of that, and it really can have a compounding effect. So make sure that you're reaching out to your employees, to your customers, to your family, to your friends. Reach out to everybody, because the more we can talk with each other, the better. I've heard stories of people using Zoom for birthday parties and things like that now. So we've got to embrace virtual, because for the foreseeable future, it definitely is the new normal. Technology is really, really helpful for meetings as well. So one of the things that I would recommend for those of you with employees is to make sure that you are having regular contact with your people, regular meetings. I would recommend on Mondays getting everybody together on a Zoom call for a Monday morning huddle. make sure everybody understands what the expectations are for the week, line out what needs to get done, make sure everybody knows who has priority for handling what tasks, and then follow up with them again in a one-on-one basis on Thursdays. And we call them LION meetings, L-I-O-N. So L stands for last week's. What did you get done last week or in the last 4 or 5 days? So you can check off and see how they're progressing on their to-do list. I is what issues are you experiencing? And that's also an opportunity for me as the owner or the manager to identify the issues that I'm seeing with their performance. O is opportunities. What opportunities does the employee see for the business, for themselves? Again, that's an opportunity for me as the owner or the manager to be able to talk to them about the opportunities that I see for them. And then the N is what you need to get accomplished. What are your plans for the next 5 days? And the nice thing about doing this on a Thursday in the morning, if at all possible, is that you can see the things that they haven't gotten done yet. And if there's something that's a priority, you can make sure that they know that, hey, this has to be done before lunchtime tomorrow. You also need to be thinking about systems that you have in place, because systems make people more productive. You know, if you can't go around and check on them at their workstations right now, then making sure that you have a system in place is really going to be helpful. You can use things like checklists. You can make videos of how the thing should be done, take pictures of what it's supposed to look like. I recommend that a lot for restaurants. You know, how should a place setting be on the table? What should the walk-in freezer look like? Something else I would recommend that you do with your people, and even if you're a solopreneur, this is really very, very helpful, is at the end of every day, take some time to think about what it is that you need to get done tomorrow and write all those things down, prioritize them. If you can figure out how long you think it'll take you, that's a good idea as well. And when you really get advanced at this, you can actually go ahead and start blocking it into your calendar. But the beauty of that is when you get ready to start your day the next day, it's set, it's ready to go. You know what you need to do, and then you can kind of shut your brain off on all of that during the evening and enjoy your time at home. Excuse me. So I definitely encourage you to have your people make end-of-day lists. Have them send you a picture. Have them send you a picture of yesterday's list that they did today with everything that they got accomplished, and then a picture of everything that they need to get accomplished tomorrow. And that way you can help them prioritize it, figure out what makes the most sense. But a daily plan is imperative, and it really needs to be in place for every one of your employees. So just help sure that you're helping them set their goals, and then make sure that you're checking in with them on a regular basis. All right, step number 4, cash flow management. I know this is something that a lot of the business owners I talk to are very, very concerned about right now. And here's the thing, we don't know how long this is going to last. So it is very, very important that you have your fundamentals in place, right? You got to know your numbers. You got to know what you can afford and what you can't afford. And I realize that forecasting your cash flow right now is a bit of a challenge. So the best thing that I can recommend for you around that is know exactly how much money you need per month to pay the bills and survive, right? Know it by the month, know it by the week, know it by the day, know it by the hour. And then make sure that you're tracking that and measuring that so you have an idea of where you're headed. Reach out to any accounts receivable that you might have and see if you can work out something for them to do some type of a payment plan or pay you earlier if at all possible. And then reach out to those suppliers or partners that you have and see if you can negotiate with them maybe some longer terms or some better deals, right? While you're doing that, make sure that you're careful because you're going to need your suppliers and your partners when this thing is over. So don't burn any bridges. Obviously go to them, with an open hand instead of a closed fist, I guess. The government programs, if you take nothing else away from this talk, make sure that you apply for those government programs. If you haven't done that yet, that should be your number 1 to-do list item at the end of this, this session. It's free money. A lot of it is truly going to be free. If you do end up having to take it as a loan, the interest rates and the terms are fantastic. And my thought on that is it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So if you have a line of credit, I would also encourage you to go ahead and pull that and put it in the bank just in case things change down the road and they make it harder to access that money. And if you don't have a line of credit and you're in a position to be able to go get one, I would encourage you to look into that as well. Call your banker and see what your options are. Back in 2008, the reason that Ford didn't have to be bailed out was because they were able to use their line of credit. So now I'm not saying to take that out and go buy yourself an SUV or an RV or an ATV or anything else that ends in V, right? You want to keep that there as emergency cash or to take advantage of opportunities that might present themselves down the road. Postpone any purchases that you can. You were thinking about buying new computers for the staff and the ones that you have right now are working just fine. It's probably a good idea to hold off on doing that. And you may actually end up with some better pricing at the end of it. I was supposed to take a trip at the end of July, and fortunately I haven't bought the airfare, the airline ticket on it yet. And that price point has come down by over $500 since the time I checked it back in February. So there are going to be some good deals out there for us when all this is done. Think about your pricing structures, okay? Do you need to raise your prices? Because in some industries they do. Do you need to lower your prices? And if you do, make sure that you're paying attention to your profit margin, make sure you're paying attention to what you can afford to lower the prices to. And better, or maybe there's some lower end products, I guess I should say, or different services that you could offer that are going to add more value to what it is that you're selling to your customers. And the bottom line is make it as easy as you possibly can for people to pay you. Unfortunately, in many cases, we're going to have to just sell our ways out of this. Your marketing has got to shift. Point number 5. So we've got to have a different message. And we certainly want to be compassionate as well. People right now are conserving their cash. So you have to figure out what they need to buy and why they need to buy now. And an example of this, I've got a one-to-one client I work with who owns their own, it's a accounting firm. And their plan initially for Q2 was to do a bookkeeping marketing campaign. And as we were talking, we realized that really didn't make any sense at this particular moment in time. So with all of the SBA loans, they actually put together a program to help business owners who have not done a good job tracking their finances, put together a program to help them get everything together so that they can apply for those SBA loans. And the cool thing about that is they actually have a program that will work with those business owners over the 8 weeks after they get the loan to help them make sure that they're using that money efficiently and effectively. So it's a great example of finding something that's needed, something that's going to help people, but also something that can help you help your business as well. Excuse me. I would also ask you to think about marketing as an investment, okay? A lot of people look at marketing as an expense, and that just shouldn't be the case, because with your marketing, you are buying customers. And ultimately, you should be able to keep those customers for an extended period of time. So you need to look at your marketing and say, okay, how much am I spending to buy a customer? And if you are for every dollar you're spending, you're getting $2 back, then that's a pretty good marketing campaign. If for every dollar you're spending, you're getting 28 cents back, then that's a pretty bad marketing campaign. So you probably need to change that. But whatever you do, don't stop marketing. And I'm going to throw in a shameless plug here for the chamber as well. If you're not a chamber member, they have been fantastic during this entire COVID-19 crisis. So if you're not a member of the chamber and you've got some marketing dollars available, I would encourage you to join the chamber, because they really have done so much for our community, and they continue to be a really, really valuable asset, and we certainly need to support them. Do what you can to make your marketing virtual and viral. I've got a client in one of my group coaching, one of my group coaching groups, and she's a real estate agent, and she's been going around in home tours, video tours of homes, and we talked about some different things that she could throw into those videos to make them a little bit more fun, make them something that people are going to want to watch, and something that people are going to want to share. So think about the messaging that you're putting out on the internet, and how do you want it to look, and how can you make it something that's shared regularly. You got to do more marketing than before. I've already touched on that, and you got to know your numbers better than you ever have. Okay, what are your high margin goods or services, and how can you make sure that those are the ones that you're selling? Okay, you got to make sure that you got enough money coming in to pay your bills. Step number 6 is selling with compassion. There's been a lot of heated debate out there about whether or not people should be selling right now. And the answer to that is yes, but it has to be done in the right way, okay, right? Tone has got to change. right? We got to figure out what are the needs of our customers, where are they emotionally, and then we got to figure out a way to meet them there. Okay, so think about what are the top reasons that people should be buying from you right now. And mindset is key here, not just the customer's mindset, but your mindset and the mindset of your salespeople. I was talking with another client, and she had a salesperson who just did not feel comfortable selling right now. And we had a really good conversation about the fact that the service that they offer is something that's really, really important in this time. And it was vital for her to have a conversation with her salesperson and help that person understand that you're actually doing the people you're talking to a disservice by not helping them understand what this product is and how it can help them. So when you look at it, when you think about it, the only way that we can get the economy back on track is if we have small businesses that are around at the end of this crisis for people to be able to go and patronize, right? So think about it this way: you're keeping people employed, you're keeping the lights on, and you got a business that's sitting there ready for the economy to explode again. So don't feel guilty about selling. Step number 7, and this is really where we make that shift from survive to thrive, is repeat business, because repeat customers are your best customers. So you got to make sure that you keep every existing customer that you have. So if you're one of those businesses that's had to shut down, you need to be thinking about, on day one when my doors open, how am I going to get those people back into my business? If you're open, then you need to be thinking about, how am I keeping them coming in? You need to think about, what percentage of my customers am I probably going to lose? What percentage of my customers can I afford to lose? And then on the flip side, what percent will I probably keep, and what percent do I need to keep? And then you need to think about the Pareto principle, which is that 80-20 rule, right? That 20% of your customers make up 80% of your business. And in most businesses, that really is pretty true, with some minor fluctuations. But if you haven't reached out to those 20% yet, you got to sit down after this conversation and make a list of every single one of them and call them and check in on them. And if you can, ask them to do business with you, right? They're your best customers. Make sure that you take care of them and that you're checking on them. You need to make sure that while you're virtual, you're still visible, okay? You got to make sure that people still have you top of mind. If you have a database, it's absolutely right now that you're reaching out to them on a consistent basis. If you own a restaurant, you probably need to be reaching out to them on a daily basis, letting them know what your specials are for today, for tomorrow, for the week, anything that you have to stay in front of those customers. But you also are going to want to let them know, what are you doing to make sure that you're keeping them safe. C&Es, critical non-essentials. These are little things that make a big difference. These are things like sending birthday cards, sending thank you notes, just a phone call to check on you to see how you're doing, a text to check on you to see how you're doing, wishing them a happy anniversary, things along those lines. Remembering the little things and taking just a small step speaks actions. So if you're not doing that, at least for your key customers, I would encourage you to think about a little plan that you could do to make sure that you're doing that. And again, repeat business is where the profit lies. So make sure you're doing everything in your power to keep those customers you currently have. Step number 8 is making sure that you get the most from your people. Because let's face it, they are either your greatest asset or they are your biggest headache. So we talked about this a little bit already, but mindset is really, really important for them. So you've got to transition their fear into focus. Give them a mutually beneficial goal for them to work on, some type of a vision. So if you know that you need to sell 100 widgets this month in order to stay in business, then give them a goal of selling 110 widgets, okay? And help them understand the why behind that. If we can sell 110 widgets this month, I can afford to keep the lights on. I can afford to pay your salary. I can afford to keep paying for your insurance and things along those lines. So give them a mutually beneficial goal or vision to focus on. You're going to need to set new standards. When you're working virtually from home, there are going to be questions about, what do I need to do performance-wise? How many meetings are we going to have? What are the standards there? If you're still working together in an office, then there are probably going to need to be some new cleanliness standards. The bottom line is, you got to lead from out front, right? There's a time to be a leader from behind, and there's a time to be a leader out front. And this is a time to get out there and show people exactly how things are done. Think about ways that you can turn your people who are cost centers into profit centers. And a great example of that is, excuse me, we coach a events company, and obviously there are no events going on right now. So the events manager is actually consolidating all of the storage units into a couple of storage units. So the nice thing is down the road, that's going to save money because they're not going to have to pay as much for all of the storage facilities. If you do have to move somebody into a profit center for a short amount of time, make sure that you train them to do things the right way. Don't just throw them into the deep end and expect them to swim. The other thing I would say too is if you've got some slow time right now, this might be a great opportunity to take some of those folks who've had struggles, or even if they haven't, and help them sharpen the saw, retrain them and get them up to speed so that when things do kick off again, you're in great shape for to handle that challenge. Keep as many of your people as you can. So unfortunately, layoffs are going to be part of this situation. If that is the case for you and you haven't done it yet, I would recommend do the layoffs all in one fell swoop. You don't want to lay people off one by one by one, because the rest of the employees who are still there are just sitting there waiting for the other shoe to drop. So it's better for morale, it's better for everybody involved if you just do it in one swift move. Now, I guess the silver lining, for lack of a better term here, is that this is a good opportunity to get rid of those underperformers. But as soon as you do that, you need to start thinking about what's my plan to hire when things open back up, right? What's my timing going to be? Who am I looking for? What kind of training am I going to have in place in order to get them up and running as quickly as possible? And I think the who is important and the when is very important as well. Keep an eye on what the market is doing. Keep an eye on what your industry is doing, and try to be at the forefront of that hiring process. Why? Because that's where the best people are going to be. So you could really look at this as an opportunity to get an all-star crew if you time it correctly. And chances are you probably don't want to be late to the game, because you're going to get all the folks who said, well, I'm going to capitalize on this unemployment check as long as I possibly can, right? Are those really the folks you want working for you? Step number 9, mindset. I've touched on this a little bit already, but we've got to stay positive. And at Action Coach, we spell rituals a little bit differently. You can see it's RICHUALS. And that's because we believe that the behaviors that you have, that you use consistently, your rituals, are what make you rich in life and rich in, value or assets or whatever it might be. So what activities are you doing right now on a daily basis to help you evolve and grow? See, when you're working from home, it is really easy to sleep in, right? I don't have an hour worth of commute, so I can stay in bed for another hour. And then I'll get up and I'll go make some coffee and I'll shuffle around and I'll read the newspaper, and 9:30 I'll go shuffling into my makeshift home office in my bathrobe with my pink fuzzy bunny slippers on, right? That's not a good ritual to get yourself into. I've actually heard of business owners who will get up, get dressed like they're going to the office, get in their car, drive around the block, park in front of their house, and come in the front door and go into their makeshift home office just so that they can get their mindset around being at work. I've talked to other folks who are dealing with, having the kids at home, and they've actually posted office hours to say, mommy or daddy is not available from this time to this time. Then I've got scheduled playtime, I've got scheduled lunch, whatever it might be, to help them be able to focus on what they need to do work-wise, but then also still be able to take care of their families. It's a great opportunity for learning and growing, as I mentioned. What are you doing to sharpen your saw? The other thing to think about is, again, not to sound callous, but if you approach this with an opportunity mindset versus a crisis mindset, you're going to be better off for it. The people around you are going to be better off for it as well. And chances are you're probably going to find something that makes a difference for you, either in your life or in your business, or maybe actually in both. But there's opportunity everywhere in crisis. You just have to have your eyes open and your head on a swivel and be looking for it. Find the small wins each day. So 2 years ago, my son graduated from college, got a job out in California, loaded everything up, well, not everything, and drove out to California. His company decided that they were going to start working from home, so he brought his empty car home for a visit, And the beautiful thing about that is he left a whole bunch of his junk at my house. Well, now he has the opportunity to go through that stuff, figure out what he wants to take back with him, and I can get rid of the rest of it, and I can get part of my house back. So that's a small win that I just celebrate every day. The other thing I would encourage you to do is turn off the TV for a little bit. There's just so much negative out there, right? Everybody's fighting. Nobody can agree. It's doom and gloom. So just turn off the TV for a while or change it over to something fun that you enjoy. Listen to some music you like. Go for a walk. Just so much negative going into your brain is just absolutely terrible for your mindset. Step number 10 is make sure you have a plan, okay? The best guess is that this is going to last about 90 days. Obviously, it could go a little less. It could go a little bit more. But as you're putting your plan together, make sure that you're starting with the end in mind. I think it was Stephen Covey who had that in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Start with the end in mind. Think about where do you want your business to be at the end of this 90 days, and then backward plan and figure out how you're going to get there. You know, what are your goals for things like client retention, sales, average dollar sale, conversion rate? You need to have all those in place. You need to be tracking them, and you need to be communicating them with your people. You also need to make sure that you've got KPIs in place and that you're tracking those. How will you deliver? So by deliver, I don't necessarily mean, Grubhub type of delivery, but I mean, how are you delivering your service or your product? And how will you continue to deliver that over the next 90 days? And then what's it going to look like going beyond that? So it's something to think about. The other thing is, again, the prices. What are you charging? If you are in the cleaning business right now, things are going crazy. I'm hearing, commercial cleaning companies are having to go in, do full disinfects of these offices, right? They're going in and cleaning multiple times a week now versus once a week or once every other week. So obviously you're going to have to adjust your prices. When the demand goes up, the price goes up. When the level of service has to go up as far as those deep cleans, then the price has to go up. So think about your prices. Is it something where they need to go up, or is it something where they need to come down? And then again, think about what other types of programs can you add on to make it easier for your customers to buy from you. Because the bottom line is you want to survive first, then thrive second. So priority number 1 is to make sure that you're paying your bills and that you're surviving. Step number 11, and this goes back to having the money in the bank, is that there are going to be opportunities out there, right? Whether it's personally in the stock market, we've got a 30% off sale right now. And historically, the market has done this, and then it's gone back up, right? And it's gone back up to a position or a point that's higher than where it was when it fell. So if you're in a position to be able to invest, I'm not saying now's the time, but you're going to be able to get some really great stocks on sale. I don't know when the right time is to invest. If I had a crystal ball on that, then I'd be charging an awful lot of people a lot of money to tell them when to invest and when not to. Companies are going to be up for sale, right? Your competitors might be up for sale. Depending on how this thing plays out, there would be some opportunities to potentially buy other companies or at least buy their equipment if they go out of business. And then customers are going to be up for sale too. So that goes back to the marketing, that goes back to the planning, that goes back to having the right people, that goes back to having that whole plan in place to make sure that you can capitalize when this thing is over and the economic cycles switch from the fall and winter, which we're in right now, back to that economic spring. And then hopefully we have another economic summer like we did over the last 8 years. Here's the biggest thing. You got to act now. Make sure you're taking advantage of those government funds, and then make sure that you got a plan in place, because we've all heard the old saying, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So to wrap things up here, I'd encourage you to look for 5 ideas that you got from this talk, circle them, and then put them into some type of an action plan. For those of you who are interested, I am offering a complimentary 30-minute brainstorming session with business owners. There are no strings attached. My email is right there, so you can absolutely feel free to shoot me an email if you want to schedule some time. We'll talk about what your biggest challenges are, what you've done so far to try to address them, and then have a brainstorming session about what we can do to maybe help you get through that. The other thing I want to make you aware of is that our founder, Brad Sugars, actually did an extended training that follows these topics. So if you like the cursory overview that I gave you of this, this is a much deeper dive into each of these topics. It's basically structured to be 30 minutes a day for 10 days. Of course, you can binge watch it if you want to, But I've been through the whole thing. Again, it's absolutely complimentary. There's no selling it at all, but there's some really, really good information. So all you need to do is go to that link right there, sign up for the free tutorial or the free 10-day training, and I think you'll be really, really glad that you did. And then finally, I'll open up for any questions before I turn it back over to Jason. I appreciate everybody's time.
All right, thanks, Eric. I will unmute anyone if they would like to. Anybody have any questions? I got some good stuff out of there. You're talking about planning your day. I know that my job is the business development manager for the Broken Arrow Chamber, so a big part of my job is going out and visiting with businesses, tour facilities, talk to them about what their needs are, what their struggles are, and just see how the chamber can help support them. Not doing a lot of that right now, but when I am doing that, sometimes my day, when I go to the office and I have maybe a meeting or two, then you end up spending the rest of the day trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? Who am I going to call? What should my focus be today? But those days, whenever I wake up and I've got a 9 o'clock, a 10 o'clock, an 11 o'clock, you just are almost on autopilot. You can just go, and I'm way more effective on those days than the days I wake up and I don't have, like you said, a plan for the day. So that's very helpful.
I just saw, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jason.
Does somebody have a question?
Yeah, I just was going to say, for anybody who's interested in that PPP loan that I was talking about, the company that's doing that, if you want to send me an email, I'll do a warm introduction for you. I can't guarantee you that it'll get you moved up on the list, but they've got so many people in the queue right now that it may take you a while to get in on it. So if you want to send me an email, if you're interested in help with the PPP loan or with the EIDL loan through that accounting company, just send me an email and I'll be happy to do a warm handoff for you. So sorry, Jason, I just wanted to go ahead.
No, that's all right. I can send everyone that attended the meeting today a follow-up email that'll have that link in there for you too.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
And otherwise, oh yeah, and another thing I wanted to do is you said somebody had on their kids, they had their office hours posted up. I was like, I need to have my daughter schedule time with my executive assistant, make my wife my executive assistant. I penciled my daughter in. I got a 12:30 with my daughter. She's got questions with her homework. Otherwise, nice. Oh, and it's funny you mentioned cleaning out storage. So they designated me to actually do that for the chamber. I'm actually going to go either tomorrow or Thursday and go clean out one of our storage facilities because that does save you money in the long run.
Mm-hmm. You might want to wear a mask too for other reasons and take gloves again for other reasons.
Yeah. All right. Well, if nobody has any questions, thanks again, Eric, for that. We'll get everybody the information. I'll get a follow-up email with everybody on there. Get everybody your contact info too if they want to reach out to you about your complimentary 30-minute brainstorming session. If we want to include the slides, we can do that as well. I'll just say, would you advance to that next slide? So we have our next
why for some reason those slides aren't working.
Oh, that's okay. I'll just tell it. So our next webinar is going to be resources for workforce resiliency. It'll be basically going over some frequently asked questions. There'll be a discussion. It'll be with, oh my gosh, what was the name of it?
Got it.
Can't remember the lady's name that actually did it. I can actually tell you real fast. We had one. It's actually a two-part series that we did. And this one is going to be with, I have 9 screens working here. Let me find out where it is. But it should be good. And we also have our chamber after hours too. So Thursday, 4 o'clock, I don't know if anybody was a part of that one, but we had a chamber after hours event Thursday at 4 o'clock a while back. And the other one's coming up this Thursday, and they're actually a lot of fun. Yeah, this one will be with Rachel Hutchings of Workforce Tulsa. So tune into that one if you guys are available Thursday from 2 to 3. Thanks again to our sponsors. Thanks everybody for showing up, and we'll follow up with that email.
So for that chamber after hours, can I have something other than water in my red Solo cup?
Absolutely, it's encouraged, if
All
not
right, excellent.
required.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you all so much for having me. I certainly do appreciate it, and I look forward to helping anybody in any way that I can.
All right. Thanks again, Eric, and thanks everybody. Signing off.
All right.